What it is, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Third Intermission Podcast. This is your boy Dave, signing on for this lovely October evening. Of course, you can follow us at the socials at Toronto Third, both on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, which is including Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and of course our friends at Podbean. We are trying to get that SoundCloud link back up, so obviously, like we can go back to the indie crowd itself. But we'll see how that plays out. Got a small panel for this recording. Of course, we got the right hand of the king himself, Mr. Avery McNougal, Avery Wagwan.
Just chilling, and hating the fact that, somewhere packed up his bags. He's gone. He's on a flight down to Cancun. He's, walking around in 8 degrees, soon to be 5, soon to be minus 20. It's not it.
Nope. Nope, not at all. Of course, we also got the Hood General, or we got the Hood General himself, Coach Troy. Coach Troy, what's going on that the people don't know
Not,
about?
not too much. I'm just, here in these streets, giving people their hooch on the low, sometimes for exorbitant prices. But I don't make the prices. I just sell it to the man. Otherwise, everything is good. Just trying to keep my eye on every active sport right now, just like you guys. And I'm just blessed to see another day, each day that I wake up. I just try to make the best of it, even if it does mean I gotta make fun of somebody, like the Phoenix Coyotes. I don't know.
Well, we're glad to hear you're in one piece, my dude. All right, so we got a good show lined up for you for this recording here. Of course, we're going to talk about how the Leafdom had fallen to the New York Rangers in a clash of potential first place teams in the National Hockey League. We're also going to talk about what's going on with Nashville. They're currently sitting at 0-5, and it's getting worse, especially with the addition of Steven Stamkos. We're going to talk about, say, some damaging news, especially coming out of the OHL. Avery, we're going to let you talk about that real quick, and then, of course, try and dive into what's actually wrong with Hockey Night in Canada, as it's basically being turned into another segment on Oprah where nobody actually watches it and everybody just fucks off. So, or sorry, not Oprah. Oprah, I love you. Wendy Williams, everyone hates Wendy Williams type shit. So there you go.
Wow. Wow. Let Wendy be, eh?
Listen, Wendy can fate all she wants, but at the same point in time, it's like, your content's trash. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyways, we're gonna take a little bit of a serious tone for a minute here. Avery, we're gonna let you talk about the current affairs with the OHL, and we'll let you discuss that. By all means, go right ahead.
Yeah, so it came out a couple of days ago, a new story from Rick Westhead of TSN, of course. Those of you who don't know, Rick Westhead's an investigative journalist for TSN, done great work diving into more of the serious stories involving Canadian sports, not just hockey, but topics involving soccer, gymnastics, and another story that broke from Rick a few days ago was he was investigating a sexual assault allegation from a group of junior hockey players from November 14th, November 2014, that involved 8 former OHL players, some of whom went on to play reportedly in the NHL. And the alleged victim in the story, who is only being referred to as Anne Marie, was in a relationship with one of these players, and a consensual encounter turned non-consensual with his friends, with his teammates. And of course, if this is traumatizing to you, please, we're going to give you a warning here. You can fast forward past this part here, because this is a very sensitive subject, so listener discretion is advised here on this part of Third Intermission. The story goes that the player invited Anne Marie to his house to watch TV. down the basement. There are 8 players there, and the player took Anne-Marie to the bathroom. They had an encounter which started off consensual and soon turned into the other players coming into the room, and it turned into a sexual assault. And again, and Anne-Marie kept it quiet. She didn't say anything. She told a friend. So she told a friend about it. She told a friend about this, and a friend corroborated her story. And she didn't even tell her family until this year about this. She felt that she was at fault with what happened. She took the blame for what happened. She felt that she was at fault for going and hang out with this guy and his friends. And I just think that again, it's unfortunate because after London, after so many of the stories involving players from the OHL, the Q, other junior leagues, we keep hearing about these stories again and again and again and again and again. And these players continue to go on. Like mentioned in the story, these players continue to go on to have careers in junior hockey, minor pro hockey, Europe, the NHL. And a lot of these times, these guys get away with it with no punishments. They're not named. There's never any justice brought to them. And the fact that I feel exhausted knowing that I feel exhausted reporting on this. We're talking about this because there's never an end. There's never an end. There's never the light coming out of the tunnel in which you can see stopping. You can see the pipeline of stories coming out ever drying up. More and more and more and more and more and more keep coming out. And my head turns to the powers that be who control the OHL, the W, the Q, because how are you as commissioners, as presidents, not doing more, not stepping up even more to stop this, to do something else? Because it's been decades upon decades upon decades of these stories coming out, and the same players, in large part, in terms of the power players in these leagues, are still there. I mean, heck, David Branch, he's still there. I know he's retiring, but when a lot of these stories have come out involving OHL players, David Branch has been commissioner through all of this. And yet, we don't see sweeping changes on these matters. So it's exhausting, and I hope Anne-Marie does get justice because it's beyond exhausting to keep hearing about this. And if you have any thoughts on this, Troy, I'll turn over to you if you have any comments on the story that came out.
So I did catch a brief. I read the article shortly before we went on air. In regards to the David Branch thing, yes, a lot of these things have happened under his watch. Um, should he be held accountable to some degree? Yes, and maybe no. I think the maybe no part because I guess as these guys are teenagers coming through the system, I think it's a little easier, quote unquote, for lack of a better term, for them to um, keep things hush, I guess, because there's not a lot of spotlight on them, right? Compared to the pros. So it's a lot, I guess, like I said, for lack of a better term, it's easier for them to keep things on the low. So I mean, like I can understand from that point of view where David Branch wouldn't even be aware of these things until somebody brought that to his attention. You know, um, much like everybody else, I do hope Anne Marie gets the justice and the players are held accountable for their actions because nobody needs to be doing this to anybody. Like that's not cool. It's not right. It's unacceptable. Um, I feel like she's absolutely owed an apology from each and every one of them. Um, and if there's anybody out there who's a victim of sexual abuse or assault or anything of that matter, just know that there are numbers out there you can call. I believe you can text or call 988 and you can get somebody to help you right away. Do not feel embarrassed. Do not feel ashamed. Speak your truth and get the justice you deserve, because nobody deserves to be treated in the fashion that you ladies were treated. Men too. I know this happens to men. Same shit for you too. Speak up. Speak your truth. Hold these people accountable. Let them know that this shit isn't gonna fly anymore.
No, for real. Like sexual abuse and sexual assault is something that should be extremely frowned upon, regardless of who it's affecting, man or a woman or non-binary at this point. But it's not okay, especially given in any context. So, like, like I'm gonna reiterate what these guys have been saying. Like, speak your truth when it comes to things like this, because like there's no tolerance for it, especially in this day and age. So my heart does go out to these folks right now who are dealing with such a heinous thing. And I really hope, like, say these players do end up receiving their justice. So, or no, sorry, end up receiving, like, say, swift justice. So hopefully things can something retributive can come out of it at this stage.
Yeah.
But good on Rick Westhead for reporting this, because like obviously it's one of those things that shouldn't be swept under the rug at all.
No, and when people always when people come out of Rick for different things and say, "Oh, you're trying to ruin export, ruin hockey, ruin this." No, he's trying to make it better. Rick is doing the work to try and make this sport better by exposing or getting rid of the people who commit these crimes, be it abuse, be it acts of racism, be it sexism. Like Rick coming out, bringing these stories to light and giving these victims a platform is so important to make hockey better when people years ago didn't try or gave a half-hearted effort in actually making a difference in the game.
Well, it's going to be worthy of note that obviously with the Hockey Canada trial still obviously waiting in the wings right now, and we're still awaiting updates on that whole situation. This doesn't really help in regards to mending defenses especially when it comes to hockey players and the public, and the public view. So we're going to keep an eye on this situation. Hopefully, provide you with an update as soon as we can, and then we will be able to go from there. So we're going to switch gears here. We're going to go to a lighter note. We're going to head to the Leaf Dem situation. Of course, the Leafs ended up destroying the Kings, but then ended up getting basically not dismantled, but outworked by the New York Rangers on Saturday night. Of course, Austin Matthews was the lone goal scorer for the Leafs, as the Rangers had essentially just picked apart most of Toronto and most of Toronto's offense and defense throughout the entire game. And of course, with a couple of empty netters, New York ended up winning 4-1. I'm going to ask the both of you, since I was unable to see this game as I was currently working in the building. What did you guys think of Saturday night's tilt with a potential favorite in the Metropolitan Division? Avery, I'll start with you.
That was a game in which, it was nice to see Matthews get in. It was nice to see Matthews get on the board, and nice to see Matthew Nyes and OEL get points on the board. That was a game in which I know it's early, but like right there, this is a possible first second round matchup. You would want to see more from guys like Marner, from Nylander. This is a really quiet game for them against a team you can't be quiet against. New York Rangers are still a dang good hockey team. You got Kreider, you got Zibanejad, you got Lafreniere. That is a dang good team. You got to find a way to wake up for. But also, too, full credit to Igor Shesterkin. He had a great night making 34 saves. And some days, when a goalie's on, he's on. You're not going to find a way to beat him. But
Mhm.
that was a game in which you would have loved to find a way to get more from guys not named number 34 in blue.
Mm-hmm. Troy, what did you think? Were you able to see any of that game back on Saturday night?
Okay, so due to other obligations, I did not get to watch any of this game. I did, however, catch some of the highlights. Um, it did look like they were definitely like outpaced and outmatched by the Rangers. Um, at least from the highlights. There was one particular play. I don't remember who it was. I think they were on an odd man rush with Nylander, and whoever the left-handed shooter was, instead of shooting it at a wide open net, decided he was going to throw it back to Nylander. Like, it reminds me of those days when we had the Muskoka Five, where nobody wanted to shoot and everybody just wanted to pass. Like, when
Yeah.
you see a giant gaping net at that, you have to shoot it at the net. I mean, you got to take the goals as they come. Like, not everything has to be pretty, not everything has to be flashy. Like, as long as it counts, it doesn't matter how it goes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
put it on the net. Like, I'm sure Berube was probably losing his shit watching that play. But I mean, like, yeah, it teams like that, like those are always good measuring sticks to see how you match up with them.
Yeah.
Um, I think that based on what the highlights were saying, like we got easily handled. I think it means it's the Leafs got to take a look at themselves and figure out how to get themselves to be on pace with somebody like the New York Rangers because if you can't handle them, what are you gonna do in the playoffs? You're gonna whimper out again, right? So you got to show these boys what's up.
I will say as much about William. He had 8 shots on net, and Matthews had 9 shots on net. They were firing that puck. They were firing it, but again, some Shesterkin just wasn't going to be beaten, and that's a tough thing to know. You got 2 guys who had almost 10 shots on goal each, and you only had 1 goal between them. Some
Mhm.
days, sometimes the goalie is just dialed in, and you're not beating him.
9 times out of 10, you're not. Um, I will say though, like I mean, given the perennial powerhouse that New York is right now, like obviously it is going to take a much more of a concerted effort to actually be able to beat the Rangers on a solid night, especially if Shusterkin is like literally on his game. So that is something that we are going to have to definitely see and definitely keep our eyes on. You know what I mean? So, like ideally speaking, I guess the only bright spot throughout the entire game was obviously Matthews, Ekman Larson, and of course Nylander. But like, you really have to ask yourself, like, what happened with the rest of the lineup the entire game? Like shots were like firing left, right, and center, and it's just like it felt like Toronto was being stymied like every single which way, and it was starting to get just ugly throughout the entire game. I don't know, like if you're like looking back at it now, like if you're the Leafs, how do you find a way to like literally just break through that strong defensive core that New York seems to have in this situation? And Avery, I'll start with you because like I know you're not very analytical in regards to things, but it's just like it's kind of like going into the hood and like basically finding like the biggest guy you can find, getting the shit beat out of him, shit beaten out of you by him, and then still going back to go fight the dude.
Yo, what an analogy. That's a yo. That these analogies are always some of the wildest things you'll ever hear in your life. Those there always are. But honestly, I think it's really just a matter of for Craig Berube, you're gonna need, I think, just really a lot. You need more high danger chances. That's really gonna be a big thing going forward. I mean, they were getting those chances against LA, against Pittsburgh. That's really gonna be the really big thing to try and break on through past New York, finding ways to not be content with shots from the point. Getting in tight, that's a big thing. I know it's easier said than done because that's a solid back end New York has, but that's gonna be a really big thing to get to an Igor Shesterkin, getting in chances in tight going forward. But
Mhm.
and that's the thing I'm sure Craig Ruby pointed out to his troops and that to his team is that hey, you can't be content. You got to find a way to get more chances in tight on Shesterkin going forward.
Yeah. Troy, what do you think?
Sorry, I was distracted by something. What's the question?
So it's like if you're the Leafs, right, and like obviously you have another shot at the Rangers, like what's the best way in order to be able to like just to be analytical here? What would be the best way to take out New York and say like if the Leafs and the Rangers actually do end up meeting in the playoffs?
Stay out of the penalty box. First and foremost, stay out of the penalty box. Keep it 5-on-5, and at the very least, if you're gonna go, take somebody with
Yeah.
Here,
you.
actually, let me. Yeah.
Like pay attention to your assignments. Um, play solid defense. Your offense will come, and as long as everybody's shipping in, and not just the same the two or three people. It's a team of 23 people. Everybody needs to do their part.
Mhm. No, it's true. Actually, let me actually correct myself. The Leafs actually had 18 high danger chances compared to Toronto's 10. So they were getting in there. They had 7 in the third period. And that's what you want to see. But then again, they comes to converting on those chances when you're in tight and making sure you can get that past the circuit. But yeah, no, keeping up those high danger chances can be a big thing. Because when you're up 18 to 10 in high danger chances, you should win a game. You should be able to win that hockey game.
9 times out of 10, you should. Here's the other issue too. It's like if you're not converting on set high danger chances, it's like what are you doing? What are you doing? That's like say basically dismantling what your offensive style is, especially when it comes to say something like that. You know, you have to essentially look at it and be like, okay, you know what? Hey, we messed up here. Let's go back to the game film, take a look at the situation, be like, okay, we got a good quality shooting here. We got good quality shooting here, but why are we not getting good quality shooting in front of the net when it comes to a high danger chance like that? You know, that's something that we have to look into as well. So hopefully the Leafs can get back on the drawing board and try and get themselves a much needed victory. Of course, Tampa Bay is in town on Monday. Leafs will face Columbus on Tuesday, and then they'll face St. Louis on Thursday. Their Saturday night game will be against, and I'm just pulling that up right now. Yeah, will be against the much hated Bruins on the 26th. So Uh, hopefully Toronto can get its shit together and hopefully get themselves a nice 3 out of 4, um, or 4 out of 4, depending on what happens, and going from there. But say, what would be the biggest matchup that Toronto has to look forward to come come this week? Avery, Troy.
Ooh. Maybe Troy, you want to take this one first?
The biggest first round matchup in terms of
No, the
who
biggest matchup this week.
This week here.
all this week. Um, Let me see. So we're looking Tampa, Columbus, St. Louis, Boston. All of them. Yes, I would say all of them. Really, because I mean, it's all about trying to accumulate as many points as you can before December. So every game, I mean, obviously for every team, every game is a must-win game. But if you're making me pick the Bruins, I mean, obviously Tampa's still no slouches. They still have Andre Vasilevsky, but the Bruins, they're just still finding a way to get shit done. and Swayman's out to prove, that he's worth the money. Like he wants to send a fuck you to management to be like, yo, why'd you just take so long? And he still wants to send another fuck you to Toronto for not picking him in 2017.
Yeah,
Where the hell is Ian Scott? you know, so
yeah,
yeah, if you're making me pick, I'm saying the Bruins, but I think all of them, considering you've got what is it, 5 games in 8 days. So they're all important, but the Bruins are the measuring stick, I think, this week.
Yeah, no, I gotta agree with Troy. The important game again is the Boston Bruins. It's gonna be a team that you're probably gonna have another matchup again with them in the postseason. You're gonna want to test yourself again
hmm
against this team who you're probably gonna face round one, round two, and you're probably gonna be playing up against Jeremy Swayman in net in that series. I'm not probably you will be going up against Swayman,
yeah. Oh,
and
that's
it
weird.
yeah, and it's a matter of trying to figure out again, cleaning up. How can we get past this team? I know the Bruins team has changed. There's been turnovers on both sides, but it's a matter of figuring out what can we do to again or try and get past this Boston hurdle,
Yeah,
which has been a roadblock for this franchise for how many years, going on seemingly forever for much of the past 10 years.
I know. It's insane because it's like this. Toronto has not beaten Boston since what 1972.
Oh, longer than that. It was 1959.
Yeah, like it's like what Toronto. It's been what 75 years now since.
60, yeah, more like what 59, do quick math, about 62, 63 years. Like it's been a long generation since you've seen Toronto beat Boston in a playoff series.
Right? And it's like it's like if you're a Leafs fan and you're obviously dealing with the Bruins like left, right, and center in the playoffs, it's like it's starting to become a massive issue where you cannot, and I mean you cannot fall to pieces, especially in this situation. And for the Leafs, it's like how many more times can you face this team and still not get your ass kicked to the point where it's like, hey, we need to change? Because there have been about maybe three, if not four, different iterations of this Leafs team, and yet they have not been able to defeat the Bruins at all. Like they've come close on more than one occasion. Like, of course, 2013 will always be the measuring stick of nightmares for the Leafs. And of course, with last year being like, say, the proverbial like basically shit on the stick that is game 7 in which the Leafs had to eat after what was one of the most horrendous plays or horrendous defensive plays in Leaf history. It at this rate, it's like, what the hell do you do? Do you have to like? Do you have to blow some more sage into the Leafs locker room? Like, do you have to like get some voodoo black magic from like say Cuba or Haiti or like even like say like I don't know some island in the Caribbean just to remove the juju that is like the Leafs bad luck against the Boston Bruins because like this is absolutely insane. Like if you're a sports fan and you're watching this, it's just like why is it that the Leafs keep feeling pain every time they play Boston? Can they not figure their shit out?
Right, like it is bizarre in terms of how often this team, yeah, and it isn't just, and they've lost to Boston in so many ways. 7 game series, overtime losses, short series, long series, like any which way in which Boston can take down the Leafs, it's
Yeah,
happened in the past 10 years.
but like every series has gone game 7 with Boston either winning in overtime or winning in one of the most lopsided victories possible. And you're just like, what do you do? You can't change your goaltending. Or no, sorry, you've changed your goaltending, you've changed your defensive core, you've left your offensive core where it is, you've
Yeah,
changed coaches what 2 3 times now. Um, I don't know what else to say or what else to do in this situation if I'm the Leafs because like this is absolutely insane. Like it was like the Raptors woes with like them losing a game 1 every time,
Yeah, always 20 out losing in game one NBA playoffs, which is wild. They couldn't win they couldn't start the series off on the right foot.
Exactly. The one year where they whatchamacallit, where they swept Brooklyn for like they got their first series sweep for the first time against Brooklyn. It's like unfortunately that was in the bubble, but like you know what? Like at least they got something out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they won game one of the finals against Golden State.
Which is significantly huge, especially on your home floor.
Yeah.
So ideally speaking, like Toronto can get it done. It's just that the problem is it's like are they choosing not to at this point? And that's the upsetting thing. So ideally for me this week, biggest test obviously Boston, just to reiterate what Troy and Avery have been saying, but I would also say like a St. Louis as well. Like obviously they're a young team, they're a young hungry team, and of course they still have Jordan Binnington, most racist goalie in all of the NHL right now. But ideally speaking, like Toronto still has to measure up against like say potential Western powerhouses as well. And you know, obviously this is a nice segue into our next segment here. But at the same point in time, it's like St. Louis is pretty strong this year, and if they can manage to get themselves back into a playoff position, then obviously they can do some damage in the playoffs this year. Um, Going from say Western powerhouse to I guess the Western basement, um, what's going on with Nashville? Because like Nashville currently right now is sitting at 0-5, and it is outright embarrassing considering they had probably by far one of the best off seasons they've had in a long time. Avery, I'm gonna let you dive in on this one here.
Yeah. Yeah, Nashville it was in which they got Brady Shea, they got Steven Stamkos. I mean, yes, they did get veteran guys, looked a little bit older, but you still there's a team that still had UC Saros, Roman Yossi, Philip Forsberg. This is still a team that knows how to have playoff runs, have playoff success. And after losing to the Canucks in round one last year, it did look like okay, they bring some more. They bring some veteran leadership, bringing guys who've been there before, gone deep. Maybe not a cup team, but a team that can start off on the right foot and get you a playoff series win or two. So now it's still early. Where it's still early to 82 game season, but seeing Nashville starting off 0-5, that is a shocker. I did not expect them to come out of the gate this slow. I figured maybe they go maybe a 2-2-1 start. Maybe there's a loss here and there, but coming out of the gate and you lose to Dallas, you lose to the Wings, you lose to Seattle, you lose to the Oilers, and you lose to the Wings again. Like that was wild to me. That was absurd to me. And in none of these games has Nashville scored more than 3 goals. They've failed to score more than 3 goals in a game, and they've already been shut out once this season.
Mm-hmm.
So something's got to change here. Something has to be fixed. And the game against Seattle, they lost 7-3 to the Kraken. And then when the Wings beat them, they lost 5-2. They're already been shut out, and 2 of these games, they took a belt to the backside. That's not good.
Troy, what are your thoughts on this? Because like honestly, like even with like say a powerhouse like Steven Stamkos, like don't you think you get at least one win under your belt at this situation?
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, like it was the same thing. You could say the same thing for Colorado until they picked up their win too, because at one point Colorado was occupying the basement in the league standings, but now it's mass competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, with all that firepower, they're a minus 13 in terms of goals for and against. Like the only other team that's minus double digits in terms of goal differential is Edmonton, Colorado, and San Jose. On the flip side, you've only got 2 teams that are plus double digits in terms of goals for and against Winnipeg and the New York Rangers. Um, I have no idea what's happening in Nashville, maybe they just haven't had time to really gel together yet, or maybe they just don't have the right pieces. You
Mm-hmm.
know, either way, and I mentioned this earlier in the episode, you got to get as many points as you can because December is going to creep up on you quick. And once December starts leaking into January, it gets harder and harder to start making up points. So maybe it just needs some line juggling. You know, maybe if they have a trip or something, maybe cancel it. See what happens. Because then I think that happened. They showed that in that documentary on Amazon, the Face Off thing, where um, yeah, I think it was Nashville. To be honest with you, yeah, like there was a concert or some kind of trip they were going on, and the coach said, "You fucking no, the fuck you're not." And then in response, that's when they ripped off that multi-game win streak. Because the coach said, "No, you're not going, even though you're grown men. I don't give a fuck." That lit a fire under them. So maybe they need to plan a trip and have it canceled again for them to find their footing. Same thing with Colorado. Like it's very weird seeing these two powerhouse teams this close to the bottom this early in the season.
I mean, nobody's still talking about San Jose right now, but of course, San Jose is in a massive rebuild. Let's be honest about that. So, ideally speaking, like you want to look at it and be like, okay, why is Nashville currently playing like shit? Why is Colorado playing like shit? Why is Philadelphia currently 1-3-1 right now? Like, these are a lot of questions that give me an answer. But at the same point in time, it's like, yeah, it's early. Why not get your shit together at this point? So ideally speaking, it's like you really have to sit and wonder, like, okay, what has to give in this situation? And if Nashville does go end up going like say, I don't know, 0-9, say by the beginning of November, or say they end up like in mid November and they have not won a single game, somebody's getting fired at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Somebody's definitely getting things swept.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their cap space looks like, so I don't know if they're able to make any moves that way. But
Didn't they
as is the tendency in any
through,
major sport,
through the off season?
it's fire the coach first because you can't fire the players.
Yeah. I was gonna say, wasn't their cap mostly burned through during the off season after signing Stamkos and Yossi?
I think so.
Well, let's see how things go. Of course, Nashville will be taking on Boston later this week. So hopefully Nashville can actually pick themselves up a win. And if not, then we may be talking about, say, Nashville's head coach getting fired, say later on in the month or say later on in the season. So we're gonna keep an eye on
It's
that
funny.
as well.
It's funny how Nashville and Toronto, the two measuring stick teams, is both the Bruins.
That's nuts. All right, so we're gonna end off on say a very, very debatable question here. What's going on with Hockey Night in Canada? Like, it's is it possible to save it in its current format right now? We've seen a number of complaints from say viewers, not only who are more inclined to enjoy hockey, but also people who are like just casual fans but love the programming of Hockey Night in Canada. It looks like it's gone downhill a little bit, and it's starting to be a concern not only for hockey fans but also just for Sportsnet in general. Of course, Mike Stevens on Twitter has stated that Hockey Night in Canada used to be like an actual event, kind of was like appointment of viewing, core memory stuff, just very nostalgic. Now it's just basically betting anchored by an intermission panel with basically the conversation vibe of a reject table at a community center wedding. You gotta admit that's a bar at that point. But what needs to change with Hockey Night in Canada? Like, is it their formatting? Is it like, is Ron McLean's time done with Hockey Night in Canada in general? Like, can we see if we can get Cabby back? Like, what needs to be done here?
Ron McLean, his time has passed like expired canned food. Like he's been there way too long, past his prime. I mean, like he probably should have went the
Hmm.
same time Terry went,
Yeah.
but I think the problem with Hockey Night in Canada, and I know that we've covered this in different seasons and in different episodes. The problem with the people we see, the talking heads we see on Sportsnet, is they're too, I guess, for lack of a better term, politically correct. They
Yeah.
all know that there's a giant elephant sitting in the room, and nobody wants to address it because of who signs their paycheck. And because they have ties to the league, they don't want to, per se, put them on blast and make the league look bad, kind of deal. So nobody wants to step on the proverbial eggshell when clearly it needs to be stepped on.
Yeah.
And I think because nobody's willing to do that and say the shit that needs to be said,
Hmm.
it's going to remain this. And the other problem is these fucking gambling ads. Can we stop with this shit already? Like, I don't care. Like, I don't need to know about Bet365 or Bet99 seeing another Jamie Foxx MGM commercial. Stop it. I don't care. Show me something else. But yeah, I think ultimately that's the problem with. I would even argue and say same thing with TSS. All those guys over there too. You know, they all have their ties and connections to the league, and they absolutely refuse to call it fade a spade. They're just like, no, let me play nice guy because I don't want my sources to get burned when I need
Yeah.
to get information about it.
Avery, what's your thoughts on this? If he's still there.
Mike was off. Hang on, Mike was off. So yeah, seeing hockey in Canada and comparing it to a TNT and ESPN, even Amazon, hockey in Canada right now comes across as far too safe in its presentation. I mean, bringing in Kim Bietsa and Jen Botterill were two great additions to the panel. But the formatting, the style, how we transition to stories, how we transition to games, the pregame setup, it's outdated badly. It needs a lift. The intermission segments need a lift in terms of how we present them, how we operate. Like I look at a TNT or an ESPN, and there's a little bit more life into the debates on players. When they're talking to players who are on that warming up, there's a bit more life in how it's done on a TNT or even on Amazon. They're willing to take more chances, and Sportsnet CBC aren't willing to take any chances right now because I mean, we saw what happened when he took a chance with Strombo back in 2013, 2014, and
Mhm.
immediately they doubled back on that when his style didn't click with the audience. When honestly, I feel George was miscast in his role, but also he wasn't given enough time to warm the audience up into his style, who maybe
Yeah.
didn't know him from much music or his music days. So I think it's a little bit of Sportsnet and CBC is stuck too much in this is what the audience likes, what the audience knows. And I could be entirely wrong in terms of how who's in there making the shots, but it comes across as there's no risk taker in
Mhm.
terms of when it comes to Hockey Night in Canada programming on that show. It seems like those who are conducting Hockey Night in Canada aren't risk takers and say, you know what? Let's try this. Hey, if we fail, we fail. It is what it is. At least we tried. You're seeing those attempts on Amazon, which I thought was a very good. I thought they did a very good job. I saw a bit of the Penguins Habs game. I thought they did a very nice job in terms of being a little bit fresh, taking a few chances there, a lot while still at the end of the day being a quality hockey broadcast with John Forslund on commentary. So, and Andy Petrillo was the main studio host with Adnan Verk as well. So it comes down to Hockey Night in Canada needs somebody in there to take a risk, because there's talented people in that company on air at Sports and CBC. And if you're not going to utilize them in an engaging way to your audience, if you're not looking at the social media and seeing your audience being bored by that, what are we doing here? Evolve or die, really, because numbers will drop off eventually if you don't eventually make a change in some aspect.
No, I fully agree. Like, I mean, if you ever grew up, like, say, as a black kid, if you ever grew up in like Flemington Park in Toronto, or say like any other shit neighborhood, right? And all you could get was like your basic 30 channels on like Toronto television, like for example, TSN, CBC, and what have you, right? When you see Hockey Night in Canada on television, you're like, it's like, it felt like such, it, let me put it this way. It kind of felt like growing up and watching Sesame Street, because it's like you could get your hockey education. You could feel like, you actually learned something. And you actually, like, say, were able to not only have an appreciation for the sport, but also like an
Yeah.
the sport. And it was like that across Canada and like all shitty neighborhoods. Like that's why like most kids in Toronto have like hockey jerseys and everything. It's because of Hockey Night in Canada that was, very significant in, I guess, molding not only Toronto culture but also hip hop culture as well, especially within Canadian circles. And of course, Hockey Night in Canada was very detrimental in that, or no, sorry, very beneficial in that. Not detrimental. That's a wrong choice of words. Now it's just like right after Rogers took over and basically Hockey Night in Canada went to Sportsnet. It's like it feels so dead, like it's basically more crooked than Kevin BX's nose, and like
Wow.
I'm sorry, like I can't take hockey experience from a man who basically has been punched in the face so many times that like his nose is so busted, like
Yeah, what is you want the best thing there on the chat? You want the best thing they got going right now?
he's terrible. I'm sorry, like
Whoa! What? You tripping? You tripping? Give me the one. He's one of the reasons now to watch.
I don't know, like a lot of his hockey takes were like really biased, especially towards like say Toronto teams, or sorry, towards Toronto itself. And it was just like, are you like? I understand like there's a Western Canadian bias, considering like you played for the Canucks for like however long, but like yo, you gotta at some point or another. You know what I mean?
No, what was it? What was the last word you said, Dave? What was the last thing you said about that? I didn't catch the last word you said.
So like obviously there's a little bit of a bias, especially
Yeah.
for like when you've been playing for so many other teams, like in the Western Conference, like the Canucks and the Ducks, for example, right? And yet still, you can't really give other teams their just due, including the Leafs. It's just like how can you justify being an analyst if you're not being, say, fully impartial here? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, you heard it here, folks. Dave's number one op, Kevin Bietsa.
Listen, okay, I respect I respect the man fully, but like again, like some of his hockey takes to me were not that great.
Oh, hey, to each your own. To each your own. I'm a Kim Bietsa guy. I do think he brings a lot of life and humor into a show that needs a little bit of personality. Needs that spice which his commentary can bring. I mean, we saw him last year calling the Edmonton media a meat because of Dumb and Dead, and then I went on Twitter and changed my picture to a profile of steak.
Oh my god. You're never living that down, Avery. I'm sorry.
Hey, I put into it. That was jokes. I took that in stride. I know I took that one in stride. That was just good TV.
Jeez. We still need to get Ron McLean to eat a beef patty on air, man. Like,
Hey, we gotta find a way. We got the people who can get a beef patty towards Ron. We have the inside. We got people inside. We got David Amber. We got Anthony Stewart. There's people in there who can make sure it happens.
somebody's gotta make it happen.
He's gonna look at him and be like, "This isn't a hamburger." I thought you said beef.
like this tastes like a neighborhood I'd never want to be in. Like, sir.
Oh, hey, I don't know about yo. Now you assuming a lot about the man, yo. How you know? How you know you don't know what a beef patty is? I mean, you never know. You might eat it and start and you might start
No,
feeling
I
like
could probably
yo.
say he does. It's just that again, like we need to get him to eat one on air. You know, get Randy's patties and see what won. But like,
See, right there, that would be right. This is content right here. You know what's content right here? Donovan Bennett, Ron McLean, go to Randy's Patties for a segment on Hockey Night in Canada. I'm dead serious on that one.
honestly, we need to make it happen. We really do.
I'm dead serious. Yo, bring Ron McLean or bring up the panelists to Little Jamaica. Cause yo, right there. You talk about the culture, the hockey's culture, who watches hockey.
Exactly.
I would love to see a segment where you got like a Ron McLean or Donovan Bennett at a cabbie. They're going down to the barbershop, Little Jamaica, and they're talking puck in the barbershop.
Yep.
How cool would that be?
That'd be outright insane. Like I definitely buy tickets to watch something like that. You know, obviously, of course, the NHL wants to maintain its whole gentlemanly, scholar-esque type look. So not much more you can do about that.
Yeah, man. If there's a way to pitch it, and there's a way to make it happen on Rogers Sportsnet, hey, they'll find a way. But you know what? Hey, that might be an idea for us here on Through Into Michigan. That might be an idea for us to try it. But you know what? Hey,
I would honestly, if it were me asking Rob McLean, like, yo, come have a beef patty with us, is like, I doubt he'd do it, but then again, I probably doubt that he wouldn't.
hey, you never know. Only one way to find out.
Exactly. All right, and on that note, we're gonna cut this episode off. Of course, it is really cool, you know, just to bring Black culture into hockey, especially on this particular show right here, because it's like, you know what, it's all types of fun, and I think that's the biggest thing that we're trying to have